Okie dokie, here we go. You're damn right, everybody. Welcome to the show, the HooperCast Movie Hour. Facebook.com/HooperCast, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher Radio on Demand. Leave us a nice review because I checked today. We have none. We need to change that. Big thanks, though, to our friends at Anchor FM. And because of them and their distribution of our show, our audience has tripled. So thank you for that, Anchor. Yay. Check out our archives out on our YouTube page in case there's something that's not on the iTunes or podcast archive. It's probably on the YouTube channel. Make sure it's us, though, and it's written in, American English and not whatever the hell that was.
Right.
Call into the show at 251-333-8732 to leave us your questions and comments, 251-333-8732. Dustin is here. I am here. Let's talk about some movies. Hi, Dustin.
Let's do it. Hey.
Woo!
Woo!
Let's get right into it. Do you want to talk... let's do box office real quick, and then we'll get to some breaking news.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So over the weekend, January 25th through the 27th, the final weekend in FU, it's January.
Yes.
The top three are nothing opened to crack the top three. Essentially,
it did not.
The same 1, 2, and 3 from last week. Glass at number 1, The Upside at number 2, Aquaman at number 3, The Kid Who Would Be King for Fox premiering at number 4. With $7 million. Ooh, $7 million.
Yeah, right.
Glass taking in another $18 million. The Upside, another just shy of $12 million. Aquaman, a little bit over $7 million. Really not much to report there, honestly.
No, but I will throw this in just as an aside. So Fathom Events has two things here that opened for the first. This was their first weekend, and they opened at 13 and 21, which doesn't sound remarkable, but for two Fathom Event movies, that is kind of crazy. And one of them was The Wizard of Oz 80th anniversary, which is crazy because that movie is super old and it still earned over $1 million this weekend.
What's BTS World Tour?
I don't know. That's probably some sounds like some
Love Yourself
live music stuff.
Yeah, who's BTS?
I have no idea. Let's just call them behind the scenes.
Yeah, yes. Behind the scenes. All right, cool. Well, all right. Well,
Boys that shake.
Bite that sushi. All right. Well, okay, cool. Well, opening this weekend also, nothing really. There's, I'm seeing a lot of promos for Miss Bala, whatever that is.
I have not even heard of this.
Gina Rodriguez, film. Yeah.
All right.
And then there's also, I'm showing Fandango early access to the next How to Train Your Dragon movie.
Yeah.
How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World.
Which is strange. So a lot of theaters or movies studios are doing this now. And you may recall I saw Fantastic Beasts early. Mm-hmm. I ended up seeing Aquaman early. A lot of people are really digging this whole early release thing. So they're doing that
I dig it.
Yeah, me too. They're doing that with How to Train Your Dragon, and also Lego Movie 2 is getting an early screening. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to make it out to either of those, but I would love to.
Yeah, and especially because according to this film has a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, now that may drop, but
sure.
The other two have been well received, so I'm excited for this one. I do like the other two. I own the first one. The second one I saw just once on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on there, but it was. And
the first one.
The second one, and I need to revisit it though because I remember liking the second one, but I only saw it once. It was while I was sick. I watched it like 3 a.m. while I was throwing up. So maybe anything was a welcome change of pace. Sure.
It doesnst say too much. Like, oh, thank God, a brief respite from vomiting.
Yes.
That's what you put in your review.
Correct.
Okay. Well, hey, I mean, I like early access, and I guess for them it just helps build word of mouth and anticipation for the actual opening weekend. So perhaps they crunch some numbers and they're like, hey, this translates to money.
Yeah, I think especially if they're confident it'll do well, or at least do well within its demographic, because the people who are going to come out to see those early screenings are the demographic. So you do one of those for Aquaman or for Bumblebee, like only the fans are going to show up, and the fans are easier to please, more often than not. So yeah, it's a good way to build good buzz.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
You're good.
Thing is okay. Whatever. All right. Okay, cool. So that was the box office and what's going on this weekend. Not much going on in either category. So, but yeah, I guess I don't know if you saw that on your Fandango, but at least if you're in the Mobile area, you get an early access to How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, pretty sweet.
Yeah, totally.
Okie dokie. Let's move on to breaking film news that you've got, Dustin. What you got?
Let's do it. So we're going to start with something that broke actually, I believe yesterday, from the day that we recorded this. So the second Zombieland poster was released. So this new Zombieland film will be titled Zombieland Double Tap, which is fitting considering that's one of the rules of survival from the first film. So this film again stars Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, Abigail Breslin, and Emma Stone. It also joining them this time is Rosario Dawson. And you know what? I haven't seen it in a long time, but I really love Zombieland. And this got me thinking about it. Zombieland, that first film, really, really like tore me up. I was laughing so hard in the theater. So I'm excited for Zombieland 2. The returning cast just makes it that much sweeter. And if they can recapture some of that original magic, I think we're in for something special. Because I feel like that first one was a good comedy. It wasn't a horror movie. It wasn't a sci-fi movie. It wasn't an apocalypse movie. It was a comedy, and it was funny. And I really, really enjoyed the whole ride. So I'm excited for Zombieland 2.
Yeah. I remember really liking the first one, but then again, I poured an Nalgene full of beer before I went to the theater. So
yeah,
which is just for anyone who remembers Nalgene, that's exactly 3 beers. So I had a nice time with the film, but that doesn't say too much for the film itself. But I remember liking it, really liking it. I think it's especially with director coming back and the writers coming back, and they're the same guys who wrote Deadpool. It's kind of the perfect kind of irreverent, sort of dark, self-aware humor that is their brand. So it's perfect. And like you said, the returning cast. I love Rosario Dawson. She's one of those people that I'll probably watch watching anything.
Sure.
Sorry about that. Let me turn this. Okay, cool. I can hear better. And what else would I write down? Oh yeah. I think there's a lot of things 10 years later after the first film that can because this came around sort of when zombies were on the upswing of popularity.
Yeah, totally.
And now, it's 2019 and we talk every week about when The Walking Dead's going to end and why it should have ended earlier. And so for them to come out, it's because they have something to say.
Yep.
And,
totally.
and so it feels inspired in that way.
Yes.
So, this could be good. And man, I was looking at that poster, Abigail Breslin.
Yeah, she's grown up.
She's grown up. She is an adult now. So, another reason I'll tune into. Please tell me she's of age.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Anyways, it looks good.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got also a story about a bunch of Batman news happening too.
Yeah, so this news actually broke today, and actually the first I heard about it was a quote from Matt Reeves, who's long been attached to direct this film, which has been titled The Batman for a long time. I don't know if that's the actual title we'll end up sticking with, but if it is, I dig it. Like I'm ready for something just called The Batman. I think that's pretty dope. So. Yeah. So this quote, I'm going to read you a couple of quotes here from Reeves. He says, quote, "It's very much a point of view driven noir Batman tale. It's told very squarely on his shoulders, and I hope it's going to be a story that will be thrilling but also emotional. It's more Batman in his detective mode than we've seen in the films. The comics have a history of that. He's supposed to be the world's greatest detective, and that's not necessarily been a part of what the movies have been." And he goes on to say, "There will be a rogues gallery. The casting process will begin shortly. We're starting to put together our battle plan. I'm doing another pass on the script, and we'll begin some long lead stuff to start developing conceptual things." So this film is well on its way. I love the idea that this is a detective movie. I have said for a long time, probably on this podcast, that the detective part of Batman has not been touched. Well, very little has been touched on in the live action films. And so I would love to see a good detective story for Batman.
They basically dumbed it down to any montage of anybody figuring out stuff, where it's just like, oh, the writers needed to kill some, oh, he figured it out, but we're not going to show how.
He typed into a computer,
which diminishes Batman's detective quality, because it just in terms of like movie devices, it just makes him just as smart as anybody figuring out anything, which is too broad,
right,
and
right,
a disservice to a big character trait of his.
Yes, exactly. And I've always really loved the Sherlock Holmesian stories. So, thinking specifically of something like Batman Hush or The Long Halloween or any of that kind of stuff, where his detective prowess is on display. And
one
even
of which
thinking
just
back
got announced that's going to be a movie. I think I talked about this a few
they're
episodes
both,
back.
They're
was Hush too?
Yeah. So they're both going to be direct to video.
We've been saying for years that Hush and The Long Halloween would make good films.
Yes, 100%. Now, I hope they nail the art style. Some of the art styles for these direct to videos have gotten a little bit bland,
right?
And the animation's gotten a little bit janky. But if they keep the core of that story and give us a good voice cast, which I think the voice cast for both has been announced. Sadly, it's not Kevin Conroy or Mark Hamill or any of that. But if they give us a good voice cast and some decent animation, I'm sold. The story's great. And that's really the stuff that I relate to most. It's really that detective quality of Batman, but also the determination of Batman, which I feel like hasn't really been on screen very much. Maybe save for The Dark Knight Rises, there's not like a point where Batman is so broken that the only way he can move on is to just dig deep and muster up some strength that the average man would not be able to muster. Like, that's the stuff that I love. And there's an arc from a few years ago called The Court of Owls. And if you haven't read it, it's a phenomenal story in which Batman is actually placed in a labyrinth. And he's in this labyrinth for a long time. I can't remember off the top of my head how long, but I want to say like days or weeks. He's just in this labyrinth and he hasn't had anything to eat or drink. And then like a ton of villains, like henchmen, start attacking him. Right. And there's this full page spread of Batman, like he appears as a giant with all of the henchmen like as tiny minuscule little figures that he's just swatting away. And they even draw Batman with like an actual like bat face and stuff, like it's so abstract, but at the same time it's literally a representation of the grit and the determination in that character, that he appears so much taller as a giant to these small little henchmen, in that even after weeks of or let's just say days, because I can't remember, even after days of wandering with no food or water in the middle of a labyrinth, he's able to dig just a little bit deeper and find the strength to overcome. And that to me is the stuff that speaks to me. So if Matt Reeves can hit on either one of those two qualities of Batman, I think we're in for a treat. And I love the idea of using a full rogues gallery. We just mentioned Hush and The Long Halloween. You could talk about Arkham Asylum. You could talk about a bunch of different things that incorporate this large number of Batman villains and supporting cast that the movies really have only hinted at, right? That, oh, well, the Joker's still out there, or Scarecrow's still out there. One of the reasons I love The Dark Knight is it opens with the Scarecrow, and so you get this sense that these characters are continuing.
Yeah.
I love that kind of thing, and so to have the full Rogues Gallery is really, really cool. And then today, a little just before we actually sat down to record this, Deadline Hollywood announced the Batman to fly in summer 2021. Ben Affleck passes the torch to the next generation of Bruce Wayne. That's the sort of headline. That's the tweet. Ben Affleck retweeted this and added, excited for the Batman in summer 2021 and to see Matt Reeves' vision come to life. So it's pretty much, it is official now. Ben Affleck will not be Batman moving forward. So the casting process is starting up, not just for the Rogues, but for Batman himself. This is a huge plus for the DCEU, if that even still exists at this point.
Yeah.
And you know, to have a different person as Batman is great. To be able to disconnect from what has come before, you know, notably the Jared Leto, Margot Robbie, Killer Croc, you know, whoever else was in Suicide Squad. I never saw that junk. And you know, all of this pre-established stuff that they can kind of cut ties with instantly here. So it'll be great. It'll be a little weird that there's Jared Leto, Joaquin Phoenix, and then potentially another Joker in this film, all in a small time frame. But I'm for it. You know, I'm willing to look at this as a standalone Batman movie, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. You know, I'm sure that they could have made it work with this vision and with Ben Affleck, but I'm sure that I really have no doubt that it'd be better with another actor for Batman, and it's just better for the brand that they distance themselves you know, from him.
Totally.
Yeah, I think I love what the structure of a detective or mystery can do for a character transformation.
Yes.
And given Matt Reeves' strength with nonverbal storytelling with the Planet of the Apes films and other things he's directed, I'm really excited for this. I think, like you said, it's a chance to see Batman sort of driven, and sort of a seminal trait of his, at least to me, is he's you know, his workaholism when it comes to solving crimes. Like he doesn't just like solve crimes because it's like, you know, it's like the right thing to do. It's like, no, like this is what I
obsession.
am, and I'm obsessed with figuring this out. So if you can convey that, and I think Matt Reeves can, to an audience, like how frustrating it is when he meets a dead end, or when it's just another stupid Riddler card he finds, like, oh Jesus, there's another one. Like,
right.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be really, really, really great, I think.
Yes, I agree.
You got something about James Gunn?
Yeah, so weirdly enough, James Gunn has been confirmed now to be both writing and directing The Suicide Squad. This is very vague. We don't know if this is a sequel or a reboot or how they're going to be handling this. It is called The Suicide Squad, not Suicide Squad 2 or Suicide Squad Revisited or whatever. Like it's The Suicide Squad. So maybe they're pulling a Fast and Furious move, but it really seems more like it's going to be a reboot. Right. I just have a hard time believing that James Gunn is going to step in and say, okay, that other movie was really great, let me build on it. I feel like he's just going to say, no.
Right.
Let's start over.
Because exactly. I doubt that it's, you know, he did get fired, but like, it's not like he's desperate for work to where he's just going to like shut his mouth about a horrible story, horrible script.
I'm just sort of secretly hoping that he casts his exact cast from Guardians of the Galaxy and secretly makes Guardians 3, like just does that script as the Suicide Squad, and then like 5 months after it comes out, takes to Twitter and says, imagine this character is this character, this character is this character, this character is this character, boom, Guardians 3, owned. You know, but whatever.
But you know that there's going to be element. I mean, no matter what, people are going to compare it to Guardians, and the fact that it's going to be a band of misfits who are going to sort of be made sympathetic and made whole through each other that's a lot of what the strength of Guardians is. And I'm assuming that it's different enough from it, or else he wouldn't have taken the project, because I know that he, of all people, would be aware that how derivative he would be accused of being if it was essentially the same guts of Guardians.
I feel like I think you're right. I think he's probably got a good angle on it, and I'm eager to see what that is because it feels like it would be exactly the same, but the comics are really different. So let's see. Who knows?
Right.
And then there's no information on this, but I will throw this in there. For some reason, Warner Brothers is also making a movie called DC Super Pets, which will come out in 2021. Okay. I don't know what that is. There's no information given to that, but I guess I don't know if it's an animated movie or what, but I don't know. I guess it'll have like Crypto the Super Dog and Ace the Bat Hound and Streaky the Super Cat and Comet the Super Horse and Beppo the Super Monkey. I don't know. Those are some weird like Silver Age characters, and only a few nerds that are listening to this understand what I'm saying. But yeah, I don't know. So anyway, there's another DC movie in the works, but we're still not getting a Superman movie. So I don't know what they're doing over there.
Who knows, man? Speaking, let's to keep going with DC.
Sure.
What's up with Birds of Prey? I saw a teaser today, and I think that's what you were talking about. And in the article leading up to what I was going to see, it was like, oh, we see Huntress doing this and this person doing this, and then like all I saw in this teaser was like a half second of each character except Harley Quinn.
Yes, correct. So
you may as well show me those Tyler Durden frames in Fight Club. It's just
right.
Pretty much the same amount of exposure.
Yeah, pretty much. Birds of Prey, the full title, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, which is the...
Ooh.
All right, whatever.
World's wordiest title.
I feel so bad for all the independent theater owners who are having to put that up on the marquee or just like shorten it. But anyway, so Birds of Prey. We ran out of
U's and O's and B's for Fantabulous.
right, exactly. So Birds of Prey. This is an old concept. It's essentially in the comics, Batgirl, and I believe mostly she's Oracle in these comics, and a few other female characters. Whether they're like, Batwoman or Huntress or what have you, are, all kind of working together to fight crime. Okay, great. That's the premise. This doesn't feel like that. I don't know. Maybe it is. But it's really strange. We don't really know much about it. It's coming out in 2020, directed by Kathy Yan. I honestly don't know really anything about it, but you're right. They released a teaser trailer, which, as I understand, is more of just sort of a costume test. So it's quick shots of a few characters, including one, like the torso of one character holding a bat, and we don't see her face. So they're like, ooh, who is this mystery character? Yeah, spoiler alert, it's probably Barbara Gordon. Good Lord.
It's probably a stand-in.
This is true. Yeah, we haven't cast this role yet. And so anyway, it stars Margot Robbie reprising her role as Harley Quinn, which is really weird now considering we're going to have the Suicide Squad and her. Whatever. And and the Batman, like Margot's just like holding on to this, like, please do more of these for no apparent reason because she's too talented for this.
Yeah.
And it has Mary Elizabeth Winstead in it. She'll be playing Huntress. Journey Smollett Bell plays Dinah Lance, Black Canary. We have Rosie Perez in here. And most interestingly, Ewan McGregor, who will be playing Black Mask. He is not in a mask at all in this thing. So this is strange.
He'll just be playing white face.
Yeah, correct. British man. And so Ewan McGregor is Black Mask for no apparent reason.
Rosie Perez is in that?
Yeah, she's playing Renee Montoya, Gotham City police police officer. Okay. I don't know. It's a mainstay character of the comics,
officer?
But
or like commission like a
no, traditionally just a cop, just a beat cop.
Rosie Perez is like 65.
Yeah, so I don't know how they're. I guess it's sexism, and Commissioner Gordon's like, I ain't having a woman in here.
He's like, holy shit, you're older than I am. Why aren't you at this desk?
It's just J.K. Simmons being really sexist.
Those are Brooklyn, whatever. Right. I just remember the last thing I saw Rosie Perez in was Pineapple Express, and it was just, that was the guy. That was the guy.
Yeah.
That like Hispanic, like thick New York accent that she has.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then weirdly, Chris Messina plays Victor Zsasz in this, but he's not scarred up with his. I don't know. This is really weird. Okay. Bottom line, this is my bottom line on this. I think I've cared enough about the DCEU and I almost can't get aggravated by it anymore. Right. I just kind of get intrigued. and so what intrigues me here is how every choice seems so wrong. Like down to the wardrobe that Harley Quinn is in, and like the wardrobe of Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and what little we see of Black Canary, and most especially Victor Zsasz, who, like I said, is not scarred, and Black Mask, who isn't in a freaking mask. That I'm just so like over it, I think. So yeah, we'll see. I really have. Honestly, I'm a huge DC fan. I love the concept of Birds of Prey. I have no interest in this movie whatsoever. And this is coming from a guy who actually attempted to watch the show Birds of Prey from the WB back when it was the WB. Yeah. And although interestingly enough, this is random and we can move on, but interestingly, in the pilot of Birds of Prey, it starts with the Joker paralyzing Barbara Gordon. So you see him come to her door and shoot, and it's the actor who's playing the Joker is just some random schmo, but he's dubbed by Mark Hamill, which is super cool. So anyway, whatever. But anyway, there probably won't be anything that cool in this whole movie. So we'll see.
After watching Mark Hamill like be the trickster in The Flash, I was sort of convinced, like, man, like in the right project, he could play the Joker in live action. There's no reason he couldn't,
I agree. I think if they did like a Dark Knight Returns kind of a deal where Batman's a lot older.
Yeah.
Let Mark Hamill play Joker. I think that would be great.
May as well let that be the capstone of his career. Like not voicing like a video game or something. Like have him actually come back and be the Joker and older and a lot more.
Right, and get like
to death's door, Batman.
Get Michael Keaton to play Bruce Wayne, and then and
people
Mark Hamill.
Want that. People really want to see Michael Keaton play play Batman again.
Or you know what? Even better, Hooper. Do a Batman Beyond movie, and Michael Keaton as Batman, Mark Hamill as the Joker, and then get some young hotshot to play Terry McGinnis. like for some reason Milo Ventimiglia came to my mind, but like younger.
Yeah, but like before Gilmore Girls or circa Gilmore Girls.
Milo Ventimiglia. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Whatever.
Okay, so let's see, where are we at now? We got let's transition to other comic book news.
Sure.
We'll give Marvel a shot here. There's really just a couple of these aren't even really full stories. I just want to point out one, there's just a little, there's a rumor going out right now, and I think it's already been an existing rumor, but this site claimed to have heard a report that Marvel is developing the Black Widow film as an R-rated film. I think before it was like, oh, it would be actually a really good... Oh, would it be? Like, would they even do that? And I think Kevin Feige denied it or something back in that day. And I think that if you're going to do a prequel movie about Natasha Romanoff, then it doesn't have to be R-rated, really. But, I mean, it could... I mean, it could serve the story in that sense. Although they got a good track record keeping the audience wide, so I don't know if they'd take the risk or not. But it's just a rumor right now. So there's no, I think Tom Holland may have said something. No, sorry. He said, that's the next story I was going to talk about. It's just the odds are that Tom Holland said something that.
Right. Yeah. Just say that and he'll probably say it by the time the episode comes out.
Yeah. So there's that. So that's just food for thought. It's just sort of going around. So who knows if it's even true. The other thing though, is that there's a popular fan theory that the little kid in Iron Man 2 who Tony saves, the kid with the mask on, that the drone almost kills because I guess it thinks it's him. If you all remember in Iron Man 2, the drones are targeting Iron Man, all of that. So they're pointing around, shooting at the crowd. They see a kid in an Iron Man mask. They facial match it to like the Iron Man mask. Drone's about to blow this kid away, and everyone else is running away. And this kid just raises his hand up like he's gonna blast the the statue, and then Stark shows up, stands right next to him, blows the thing up, and goes, "Nice work, kid," and flies away. There's a fan theory now going around that kid is Peter Parker.
Yes.
And so the article I read pointed out, like, obviously this wouldn't have been pre-planned because they didn't even have the rights to Spider-Man in 2010. But that it's one of those things that lately that they might be like retroactively putting into the canon. Although this is more than a rumor, but it's not real. There's been no reference to it in the films as of now. Right. I think Tom Holland did say on the stage, like, "Oh yeah, I think that's totally Peter," or like it's more of like an "I think" or "in my mind it is" sort of thing. Which could just be an actor's process type of deal. I think Kevin Feige may have said something like, "Oh, it sounds cool," like when someone brought it up to him. So it's not official canon. It probably never will be, but it is a fun way to think of the character, because this article pointed out that it was a fun way to explain why, of all the Avengers, that Peter is most idolizes Tony Stark, because you know, Iron Man saved his life when he was a kid before he even had powers. Which might explain why he's like so starstruck when Stark's like talking to his aunt in Civil War. Yeah. Although those things are all just explained away by, a famous person, just any famous person is in my house. Yeah. And the fact that, I'm Peter Parker, I have a heart of gold, and that's why I save people, not because I love Iron Man. Right. But it's fun to think about, sort of, but it doesn't ruin the story one way or the other to me. So unless they explain it in further movies, like, you know, if they decided that would be a thing, part of me would be like, "Oh, it's stupid to sneak that in," but at the same time, it wouldn't be out of character either. So I don't know, just a fun little theory. Yeah. Let's see. There's bigger stories out there about comic books. I think we're talking a lot about comic book film news right now. There's an article on Esquire about just sort of. I'm not going to go into it because this is stuff that you and I have talked about on this show. For a lot of years, about how comic book movies are not taken seriously by the Academy Awards, or really just by the film community in general. Yeah. But then now they sort of are, with the nomination of Black Panther for Best Picture, and then last year's nomination for Logan for Best Adapted Screenplay. And how it's, you know, you can go read it if you want on Esquire, but like we talk about, like I said, we talked about on the show for years about how, you know, we talk about movies like this so much because we enjoy them, but like but as we've said over and over again, they are conduits for I don't know, positive role models in some ways. Sure. I think they're inspiring to people, and I just think that on a technical and cinematic level and on a performance level, they're up there with just general, definitely like higher brow blockbusters and higher brow dramas. Yeah. And how the Academy is finally recognizing that. Now, it could be for the wrong reasons, like, we just want people to watch, so we'll nominate a popular film like Black Panther. But it does say something that they're willing to put their film card on the table like that and risk looking populist and dumb, just to get viewers. But it at least shows you that it's worth the risk for them to start doing that, which still says something about the quality of the movies too.
Yeah, totally. I think it's been a long time coming, and you and I have always treated these movies like they are art and they do matter. Mm-hmm. And I think it's about time. You know, I think maybe the tipping of the iceberg was The Dark Knight with its nomination and win for Heath Ledger, as well as its snub
for Best Picture.
Right. But I think somehow both of those two things, ignoring and allowing one to win, really kind of catapulted the whole industry. Like, hey, we're here to stay, and there's no reason why we're to be considered inferior. And you and I have often talked too about stuff like science fiction movies, how they are metaphors or they're allegories for real life. You know, that dates back years and years, that fiction has always been an allegory for something bigger, for something, you know, truer. And I don't see any reason why a story that's sort of grounded in our real world, like something like Eighth Grade, which I love, is any more artistic or meaningful than something like Black Panther or The Dark Knight or freaking Winter Soldier. Like it's all. Or Logan, it is artistic and it does mean things, and there's no reason why something that's heightened and separate from our real world shouldn't still mean something to us. So it's about time.
There's also another article out. Talk about the Oscars real quick, and then we'll probably go to break.
Sure.
There's an article on Forbes called "The Uncomfortable Truth About the Oscars," and this sort of again touches on stuff that we've talked about in this show. Recently and for years, but it's nice to see it in an article with so many eyeballs. But it's talking mainly about the inclusion of Bohemian Rhapsody in the Best Picture lineup and how that's sort of controversial because of Bryan Singer and the allegations against him for sexual misconduct and the fact that Bryan Singer is still, scheduled to direct another film about a comic book hero who happens to be a rape victim, while Bryan Singer is accused of, among other things, rape.
Yes.
So he goes through all the facts and everything, but there's a few excerpts I wanted to read that I thought were just sort of nicely worded. A little too progressive for me in terms of like how I choose to look at this thing, but all in all sums it up. This might be a good time to reflect on the fact that Kevin Hart was dropped from hosting this year's Oscars due to his homophobic tweets. Twitter, it seems, is the most dangerous landscape in Hollywood, one of the few places where actions have consequences. It's difficult to shake the feeling that Hollywood is only interested in making aesthetic changes in a bid to appear progressive rather than taking real action. Alleged predators like Bryan Singer and John Lasseter continue to receive fat paychecks while Hollywood pats itself on the back for spreading the gospel of social justice through storytelling. The hideous hypocrisy is difficult to ignore. The Oscars ceremony is marketed as an event that promotes progressive values as well as a celebration of artistic achievement, but you can't claim to be on the side of Me Too when stories of systemic abuse continue to emerge and are ignored. There's also the fact that the Oscars So White controversy did not just expose the inherent racial inequality of the ceremony, it attracted attention to the fact that the Oscars is not really a meritocracy. What? The members of the Academy aren't rewarding raw talent, but rather campaign-funded talent. This helps to explain why incredible films like Sorry to Bother You, Eighth Grade, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse didn't receive the attention they deserved. Sorry to Bother You director Boots Riley recently wrote an interesting Twitter thread breaking down the process, explaining that his film was incredibly unlikely to get nominated because there was no campaign, no money was spent to attract attention, thus no votes secured. And pretty much he's talking about how this used to just be knowledge to film nerds and industry people, but the common populace wasn't aware of didn't even know that people campaigned to have their films considered. But now stuff like that's becoming common knowledge, and how that's sort of contributing to the ratings dropping for the Oscars year after year. As people are becoming aware of the hypocrisy. Like the internet has made people aware of the hypocrisy, the campaign process, and just access to more movies in general. So people are starting to go, oh, but this was a good film. What the hell's the problem? What? Why'd you pick the artist?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Interesting. So it's just like I said, it's kind of going in a direction that I'm not really focused on, but at the same time, like it's pointing out like, yeah, the Oscars is a largely hypocritical ceremony that started as a really fun, good thing.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I don't understand why Bryan Singer is still nominated, why his film still gets points when so many don't. The rush to, and rightfully so, the rush to remove the name Harvey Weinstein from everything was swift. And everyone's dragging their feet about Bryan Singer, and that doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, I don't know. You're right. The article is super interesting, and I think that I think they're trying to have their cake and also be like, hey, aren't we having a delicious cake over here? And the truth is like, well, I I don't care. Like you're over there doing your thing. Like, and it's stupid and hypocritical.
Yeah.
Enjoy your cake. We'll have our own cake, and it's the cake of actual equality and the cake of actual justice. I don't know.
Justice cake.
Justice cake. That sounds like Batman's birthday cake.
Love some justice cake.
I love justice cake, Alfred.
All right. How about this? Let's go to break.
Yeah.
We'll come back. I want to hit one more story, and then we'll talk about our film.
Let's do it.
All right. Be right back, everybody. Hey, and we're back. Hope you enjoyed that break. And I hope you're hungry, too.
I did.
Ready to look up some restaurants.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Real quick, one more film story. There's a Beatles documentary that's going to be made. Dustin?
Yeah, I'm super excited for this.
And the director attached is Peter Jackson.
Yeah, small indie director no one's ever heard of.
Yeah, this this Jackson fellow.
Peter
Jackson.
Jackson.
This sounds great to me. Peter Jackson is a very passionate individual. So when he puts his name on something, you know it's because he loves it. Lord of the Rings, the King Kong, Tintin, and of course also what was what was the one with Saoirse Ronan?
Lovely Bones.
Lovely Bones. Like every time I heard him, even the ones that didn't do as well or connect with people, he's still like, oh, this is like my favorite show as a child and stuff. Like that's Peter Jackson is one of the people who makes films because it brings him joy.
Right. So this was announced today, which is the 50th anniversary of the Beatles rooftop concert, which is a huge deal. And so what this is the band and Apple and everybody else has given Peter Jackson access to 55 hours, I believe, of 55 hours of never before seen footage and 140 hours of audio. And so essentially Peter will now be going through all of this footage and audio and editing it into a film, which I'm sure will have some original material in it as well, interviews, talking heads, that sort of thing. But they're using the same sort of what do you call it? Like remastering of footage that was used in Peter Jackson's current documentary, They Shall Not Grow Old, which is a World War I documentary, which has been colorized and is presented in 3D, actually. So it's really great. That show is selling out, and so they've actually extended into a wide release. I would love to go see it, but yeah, so he is actually sort of taking those 55 hours plus the original film, Let It Be, which was shot on 16 millimeter, and sort of remastering all of that, remixing it, and presenting sort of a new look at this. Because for Beatles fans and the world, the impression that we've always been under is that Let It Be was a time when the Beatles were breaking up. They were fighting at their most hardcore. This was the last project that they would work on together, although not really, because Abbey Road was after this. But regardless, this was the last sort of big project that they would do all in tandem, and so the theory has always gone that they were fighting, they were bickering all the time, and that's what was shown in the original Let It Be documentary, and that documentary has never been released on DVD or Blu-ray, and I believe Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr have both said, as long as we're alive, it never will be. But and essentially because it shows them in such a poor light. However, I think the plan here is that Peter Jackson will sort of remix it, use this alternate footage, and Peter himself has said, like, looking through it, he says, quote, "I was relieved to discover the reality is very different to the myth. After reviewing all the footage and audio that Michael Lindsay Hogg shot 18 months before they broke up, it's simply an amazing historical treasure trove. Sure, there's moments of drama, but none of the discord this project has long been associated with." And so we'll get to see sort of a new look at the Let It Be sessions, which were called the Get Back sessions at the time. Fun fact. And yeah, so a lot of good stuff here. I'm excited to see it. And I think that they have also announced that they will be finally releasing the original Let It Be documentary, even though Paul and Ringo are both still alive. But I guess now that there's sort of an actual truth that's going to come out, they'll show this just sort of as archival stuff. So I'm super excited. I think this will be great. Peter Jackson, like you said, super passionate. Mm-hmm. I know he loves the Beatles. I know he loves making movies, and so this is going to be a really great thing. And great to do while Paul and Ringo are still alive, which sounds morbid to say, but yeah.
And no one's going to do all that work for a cash grab. Documentaries are not cash cows. No. They're a whole lot of work, and there's the added pressure of being truthful and accurate. Like with I was talking, and we're not going to talk about this on this show, but there's this controversy surrounding Green Book about how that may not have happened the way that it was depicted in the book and in the film, according to the Mahershala Ali character's family. Yeah. Now, I was talking to someone about it, and I'll talk about this more on another time, but basically with film, I just don't think, and we all kind of know, there's not really, you can say based on a true story, and that essentially covers you from a legal sense from having to tell an entirely truthful recounting of events. You basically just get to say these characters are real, these characters are real people, but you're not saying the story unfolded like this objectively, because you don't actually know that. It's just based on living people. But the what that does is that people watch a movie and they think, well, that's what happened, and you can't come out and say no, it doesn't, because then it hurts, because then the film gets shown in a negative light. So it's sort of just this unspoken fact with movies based on true stories that you're really trying to tell a story. There's the added juice of it being based on true events. So you want to have your cake and eat it too. But as we see in the process, some people sort of get left out, or a story at least left untold, but it's okay because the person said, hey, I didn't say the story was true. I said it was based on a true story. So with a documentary, you definitely have the added expectation of you are telling facts. Like this is, you're a journalist now. You're not really just a filmmaker. You're a journalist, and you're telling an emotional arc, but you got to do it with real stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a lot of risk and a lot of work to take on for relatively little return. And so this is being made by someone who's doing that all because of the love of the craft and the love of the subject matter. And I think fans will really appreciate that when it comes out.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Let's talk about our movie tonight. I know we're running a little long, Dustin. I apologize.
That's all good.
Let's talk about The Old Man and the Gun, which is the final cinematic appearance of Robert Redford, the star of the film. I thought for a little while that he directed this. He did not. It was directed by David Lowery. Okay. And I got this at a Redbox.
Yeah, I did too.
Okay, cool. So, Dustin, do you want to set this up?
Sure. So The Old Man and the Gun follows the story of Forrest Tucker. This is also based on a true story, by the way.
Yes.
And Forrest Tucker is a bank robber, but he's also an old man, and so he also has a gun. And there's your title right there. So Forrest Tucker lives to rob banks. He lives for the thrill of that. And so this is sort of the story of, absolutely. And this is sort of the story of how he intertwines that and a blooming relationship with Sissy Spacek's character, and who I believe is named Jewel in the film. And so Forrest and Jewel begin to sort of fall for each other. And meanwhile, he is still on the sly, robbing some banks.
He's robbing banks.
Right. And Casey Affleck plays a detective who's hot on his trail.
Yeah.
It's your basic kind of story.
Yeah, it's a pretty stock character dynamic setup,
Yeah.
And I think that the actors infuse those characters with a little bit more dimension. Probably.
Yeah.
And then Casey Affleck, and you could have gotten anyone to just play the cop hot on his trail, but you got someone like Casey Casey Aspect. One aspect of his character is he really does, like, he's burnt out on being a cop, you know?
Yeah.
And in a way, I guess, seeing whether it's just the drive to catch Forrest, but I think that there's a little bit of like him sort of being reinvigorated in his passion for his work, considering how much I guess Forrest enjoys being a criminal. You know, he sort of gets to reinvigorate that spark of why he likes being a police officer, and you know, and why he, I don't know what the example he sets for his kids, I guess, too. But yeah, what'd you think of this film, Dustin?
Well, I gave it. I think I would give it a 4.5 stars. Maybe a 4 if you press me. A 4-star.
Okay.
I wouldn't go with 5, but let's just call it 4.5. I really enjoyed it. This is sort of the definition of they don't make them like that anymore. It's a good old fashioned movie in that it is. It's just a basic story that's simple and easy to follow, and follows a good, interesting lead character, and has good, character development, and it's shot on film, and so the whole thing is just kind of, it feels like a classic movie.
Yeah, I noticed with the cinematography, there's a lot of shots that start really wide and they just slowly work in a zoom, like a telescopic zoom to a person. And the first thing I thought was, God, it reminds me of like Dog Day Afternoon or these films from the 70s, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Those are shots you just don't see anymore because they're considered not like artistic. Like they aren't compositionally sound, but
or kind of cheap.
Yeah, they come off as like cheap. But for some reason, I was just like, I haven't seen camera work like that in a good bit.
Exactly. It has a really old-fashioned sense of cinematic language, but it's also it does feel modern in that the performances are modern. So the performances don't feel stilted like an old movie from the 70s. The performances feel modern and real and lived in, which is appreciated. But at the same time, you're right. Like the language of the camera movement and the zooms and the fact that they'll let the camera linger, and the fact that they'll let the shot just be a wide shot for a while. The movies don't do that anymore, and so you're never really, like, the editing doesn't draw attention to itself. It just feels like a really simply made film. I wouldn't be surprised to learn if this film was shot relatively quickly and relatively cheaply. And that's not to knock it and say it looks cheap. It's to not, it's just to say it's a simple movie. And I think that, for me anyway, it was kind of a breath of fresh air, because it's like, okay, there's not a billion cuts every 5 seconds. And these, characters aren't kind of, one-dimensional. They're actually given some level of realism. I particularly loved, there's a few moments in here of like stock footage from throughout Robert Redford's career. And I loved when they work in young Robert Redford into this film, and photos of young Robert Redford. And all in all, I think not only was it a breath of fresh air to me, but I also really loved that it was almost a love letter to Robert Redford, or at very least, to the type of movie he was famous for making. Those Jeremiah Johnson, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid type of movies, The Sting, these kind of movies that were simple but were fun and are memorable. And it was really a love letter to that. And I really enjoyed that. I think that I wish that would come back. I wish this didn't feel so out of place. I wish there were more movies like it, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. What did you think?
Yeah, my rating's probably a little lower. I mean, I'm probably like 3.5 or something. Like I thought it was fine. But I still agree with everything you just said. I mean, like it really is. I mean, it was very clearly, and it was sort of publicized as this too. Like it is like a farewell to Robert Redford, and it's very. Yeah. It wasn't like he did the film, it came out and everything. He was like, oh yeah, I'm retiring. Like it was announced like, this is my last film.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does serve as a farewell to him, and it just sort of, I haven't seen, there's a lot of Robert Redford films I have not seen, just due to my age, I guess. But like,
sure.
I obviously I know, and I have, and from what I have seen, like I can attest to his charm, even when he's playing people who are either lawbreakers or misanthropes or something. They're still like these, relatively, like, on the scale of good to evil, like still pretty good-hearted scoundrels. Not like anti-heroes like Han Solo or anything, but like, I'm a criminal, but you want me.
But but you like me.
You love me.
You'd still invite me to your social functions.
Yeah. You could still take me home to mom.
Right.
And I did kind of enjoy the simplicity. I sort of liked the way that his character made it seem like he was mysterious enough to where I wasn't quite sure what he wanted. I didn't know if he was. I think for a while I had a problem with the fact that I never got this sense of like them working towards a goal. I was like, are they trying to rip off one more bank, or are they trying to get to a certain number? So, but then again, that added like this tension. Because it's like it wasn't a predictable story structure, because you could have predicted the ending if you were predicting, oh, we're working towards this final score. It's like, okay, well, one of them's probably going to get killed, one of them's going to go to jail, and then the cop will catch the letter. So in that sense, sort of the lack of a generic structure, just like all my reviews, I'm thinking of all this right now, and it's altering my review dramatically. But like all films that sort of buck or sidestep like a generic story structure, it gave me this sense of like, oh, I don't know where this is going, because everything seems relatively normal. But it gave me this sense of like, not like an overwhelming like tension, but definitely a feeling of, well, I'm not sure where this is going. I don't know what he wants. I don't know if when he's going to do what, and I don't know what's going to happen to him, because I have no structure to base this off of. And in a way, it sort of freed you up to just sort of really pay attention to what he's doing. I
agree. I think, for those of you who've listened to any number of the HooperCast episodes, that I'm really big on, goal, right? What is this character's goal? And I think one of the reasons why I wasn't put off by this film not explicitly stating, look, I need X amount of money so I can do this thing, or whatever the case is, was because they kept Robert Redford, they kept Forrest at a arm's distance at the beginning of the film, and throughout the course of the movie is like that arm distance shortened until finally at the end you're nose to nose and you know what this is. And like you said, had you known where it was going to end, or had you known what the goal was, you would know where it would end. And so what's so great is that you don't know. And so, but by the end, the lack of knowing makes sense, because in a weird way, you think you're in Forrest Tucker's shoes. You think you're identifying with that character. But the weird twist is you almost identify with every character but him. And the two characters, Jewel and Casey Affleck's character, don't know much about him. And throughout the course of the film, get to know more and more and more. And that's where you are. You get to know him more and more and more. And by the end, you know him just as well as they do. Yeah. And in fact, you know him just as much as he knows himself. Yeah. And you now know what the goal was. And the fact that that wasn't broadcast at the beginning, I think worked really well here. And it may be the only example of that I can think of, where not knowing the goal ended up being the perfect way of getting me to the end of the story. And so, yeah, I do really enjoy that aspect of it.
Yeah. It's pretty much a movie about, they're not working towards one final score. It's just like, hey, I love Robin Banks. I've been robbing banks for decades, and I just really enjoy robbing banks. It makes me happy. And it's the question of, am I ever going to stop? When will I stop robbing banks? Will I stop robbing banks because I met a woman? Will I stop robbing banks because I'm going back to prison? Will I stop robbing banks because I'm killed? At what point, what will it take to get me to stop doing this thing I love? And if it's any allegory for Robert Redford, except for, the part where he retires acting, it is, it's definitely is an allegory for doing films. It's like, I do film after film because I enjoy it. And, I'm good at it, and I love it, and it brings me joy. Yeah. So so it is a pretty positive film, I will say. It's not like a downer film. It's just a good old fashioned, like, kind of, in a way, feel good story that's doesn't spoon feed you anything either. Doesn't feed you any platitudes except for, I guess, love what you do. Find something you're good at, do it, enjoy it.
I'll say this, and this is not, much of a criticism, but it's more of a warning. If you're the type of person that doesn't like a little bit of like slowness to your film, this may not be for you. If you, and that's not a knock to you. That's to say, if you just enjoy, like, all right, let me jump in and hit the ground running, this may not be the type of movie for you. But if you're okay with a movie kind of spending its entire runtime telling you one thing, then you'll enjoy it. And maybe you'll enjoy it anyway, even if you are that type of person that wants to hit the ground running. But because I'm that in some ways, but I do. That's just a little word of warning. It could be slow to some people probably. But all in all, I really recommend it. I think you'll get a lot out of it. And if you're in this for the character, you'll get a whole lot out of it. So, I recommend it.
Yeah. Well, The Old Man the Gun is on Redbox, probably on iTunes as well for rent. So, do what we did. Go check it out.
Yeah.
Okay, that's gonna be it for the movie hour this week. We're off next week probably.
Yeah. Most likely.
Yeah, most likely. So, but in the meantime, we'll be knocking out movies for our 2018 best of or favorite list. We got another fun list for you guys coming up. Sweet. So I guess in the next couple weeks, look forward to some dailies episodes for some film news overflow, and we'll come back and talk about some other films.
Yeah.
Woo! Alrighty, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, guys, thanks for listening. Facebook.com/HooperCast, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Radio on Demand, Anchor FM, and of course YouTube. Thanks. Goodbye. Get out there, see some good movies. See ya.
Bye.